Welcome to Empowered to Grow, the podcast. I am your host, Hanan and Basha, the business doctor. Following our conversations with empowered women who woke up one day and consciously claimed, I am more than enough, I am worthy, I am empowered to grow. And along their empowering journey towards realizing their own potential and their quest for growth, they became a beacon of hope and guidance for others. May you also find your inner power to grow. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Empowered to Grow. This is your host, Hanan and Basha. Today, I have my beautiful friend, Dr. Luana Garcia Ozemela. Hi, Luana.
Hi, Hannah. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. Luana is an impact development consultant, an experienced economist with a Ph.D. in economics, experience over 20 countries, and with portfolios talking about $500 million. She has a passion for empowering entrepreneurs, especially those within the African descent, and of course, women. And that's how we connected, I believe. And we're working on a secret project that will be announced very soon. And I love how we connected. I love how we kind of found each other's interest very compatible one way or another.
Yes, definitely. No, and it was like an immediate connection, wasn't it? It was like, okay, it's as if we knew each other.
Exactly. And that's what I love. Luana, when we talk about being empowered to grow, and I use this phrase, and I asked you to come on the podcast, what does empower to grow mean to you as a phrase? How does it resonate with you?
Yeah, no, it resonates a lot with me, with my upbringing, my background. It to me, the word empowerment, which is quite interesting, that in the development world, at least the company that I used to work for, the bank that I used to work for, people often had an issue with the word empowerment, because if you think of it as an indicator, what does that mean? How do you measure it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But for me, it has always been really clear that empowerment is you being able to have agency, resilience, and be able to really let's say, control your future. If we say we can control future, but that you have agency to make decisions, and it's really not about somebody else influencing your future or making plans about your future. Is you making that your choices.
That's
and
true.
And so empowered to grow is essentially that, is making the right choices and walking the path that you have chosen for yourself, on your purpose, on your what you believe in, right? And you and that provides you with a platform to continuously impact yourself, your family, and others. So that's how it resonates a lot with how I grew up, and I love the phrase. I love the phrase you coined. So,
well, this is beautiful, because, as you said, this it impacts how you choose to lead your life. Now, you're Brazilian, and you've decided that impact development is where you want to create your footprint, your mark, and this is what legacy you're leaving with the world. So, as a person who's empowered to grow yourself and who is also empowering others, tell us a bit more about your story, please.
Of course. So I come from a city called Porto Alegre in the south of Brazil. I'm 41 years old now. I'm married. I have a little son, 3 years old. And I live in Doha, but where I come from, it's thousands of miles away. I grew up in an impoverished community, but I always tell people that I never consider myself poor, even though, of course, I was living in Brazil. There is something we call slum, we call favelas, and generally people live on top of the mountain, are the poorest. right?
Yeah.
And those who live on the edge of the mountain, on the borders, at the bottom of the mountain, are the not so poor. But my family, from my dad's side and my mom's side, one lived at the bottom and the other one lived at the top. So I always grew up navigating these communities, and my background is of a family that my parents were public employees. Even though I came from that context, they empowered themselves through education, right? They were able to acquire higher education and instill in me and my twin brother that sense of, without education, you won't be able to empower anybody else. Without economic empowering you yourself, you won't be able to do it for others. So you need to do that for yourself first, right? So I grew up in a community that was very religious, both sides of the family Christians, and so I grew up, in the midst of church and leading youth groups and really being involved in leadership in that context, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So later on, during my adolescence, my father discovered that internet was going to be the future. So he put my brother and I in a polytechnic to learn about, IT programming, etc. And I started my professional career in software development. So I was a techie, and I worked for Hewlett-Packard. I was a project manager there. I used to travel a lot to the US. I was leading projects and people in India, in Silicon Valley, etc. Very young. I actually had to be emancipated to open my company so that I could provide services to multinationals like HP. So technology has been the foundation that allowed me to empower myself, because I was making money. It is still a booming sector, but then 20 years ago, it was even professionals in that area were even more sought after, right? So after going through IT and growing to a career where I worked for HP for about 7 years, I was doing really well, but I still wasn't feeling fulfilled. I still felt, and coming from a family also of activists, the Black movement, I always knew that I wanted to empower the Black population in Brazil, to just put money in the hands of Black people, just because of the context where I grew up in. I saw so much disadvantage, and I really I had, instilled in me by my family that about this issue of economic empowerment. So I got scholarship to studied in Southampton in the UK. I did masters in development economics, and before then, just so you know, I was in HP during the day, but studying economics in the night, right? Because it was something already that I had envisioned, and so after finishing my undergrad, I just said, okay, let me go do masters. Did masters in development economics and economic policy, and then met my husband there. And then we moved to Aberdeen, got another scholarship from the Scottish government to do labor economics, where I looked at the issues of discrimination in the labor market. And after that, I was invited then to work at the Inter-American Development Bank, did a career there, and it was fantastic, and it was really, I opened my eyes that I came from an activist background, right? Where I was shouting on the streets, and nothing was happening there, and then I realized now I actually need to speak the language of economics. I read an article when I was really young, and I just realized that language, I didn't understand that language of policy of economics. And I noticed that language was what politicians and people in positions of power were using
True.
to defend whatever policies they wanted to defend. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do economics. And then from economics, go and do international development. And then today I am involved in private sector work, right? Startup development, then really much closer to the area of economic development, but through entrepreneurship. And setting up funding structures and really just much closer to the private sector in that sense. But it is still one, let's say, a line that has been common in all throughout the journey of my life was this desire to empower economically the Black population and women.
I love that. I love that. And as you said, let me go to the source. Let me see how to influence from there, how to speak the same language, talk the same talk, and walk the same walk, so I can take it and make it applicable in other areas. So, well, okay. So from where you stand now, from this version of you today, what advice would you go back and impart on your 19-year-old self?
Yeah, I love that question, because there is so much I've learned, right? And when I look at the Luana when she was 19, when she was just really entering HP, still just going into, let's say, just entering her career, right? Like just beginning her career and starting to empower economically herself. There was still a lot of what I called borrowed confidence.
I like that.
It wasn't really true confidence on her identity, on her worth, on her values. It was really borrowed from, I am good at IT. I am good at programming. I am, that was like using these different small achievements, which was big then, of course, those achievements, to instill in her a self of worthiness. That I, because when she was entering HP, is like, I am the only Black woman. I'm the youngest in this team, and I'm the one leading projects. So it was always this uncertainty about, should I really be here? Am I gonna commit a mistake and it's gonna be terrible for my career? You know what I mean? Like, so it was always this like walking in eggshells. And that's what I call this borrowed confidence, borrowed from the education, borrowed from what her parents told her that she's worthy, borrowed, from so many people, which was detrimental. There was no other source for that confidence other than all these other borrowed sources. But today I have full, let's say, clarity that I don't need to borrow. I have everything I need to succeed, and even if I don't succeed, I'm not really exactly. I'm gonna learn something. And I think one thing I would have taught her is that, you need to keep a balance, that if you are not confident on something, you can definitely borrow it, but you have to learn to be confidence independent on whatever, aspect you can borrow from. So I think this is one big thing for me that I think I could have avoided. A lot of feelings of inadequacy. I could have tried some things, being a bit more risky with things, experienced more things, So, and today I'm just like, if I
bring it on.
I don't have time to be overthinking things,
Yeah. But that actually goes back to, again, as you said, to our conditioning, to the perceived limitations of what we can and can't do, or where we should go, or how far we can go. And I think as you grow older, you start realizing, hang on a second, these were all imposed. These were not actually real, but at a point in time, you start embracing them as your reality. And that's what holds us back, especially at this age where we have the world to explore. We have the time and the space and the bandwidth to make all the wrong judgments and to fix them, you know. But I love this borrowed confidence concept. I'm going to borrow your borrowed confidence. Okay, so the other end of the spectrum, and from a time capsule, what would you like your 90-year-old self to thank you for today?
I think precisely that. Thank you for having been fearless about. I'm not saying I am fearless, but it's something that I think my 90-year-old would tell me, just try a bit, you know, just be yourself. And don't worry about anything about what other people think about, you know, just live your life, you know, and let others live theirs, because that's something
that's important.
Sometimes we want to, you know, control situations and you know, help people not make their mistakes, and sometimes we spend a lot of time worrying about other people, right? And not in influencing, but it's like in helping them. And I am a lot that as a Cancer, you know, zodiac that I am. It's like I am a mother, you know, like I want to help everybody, you know,
the nurturer and the caregiver,
exactly, and help other people. So I think my 90-year-old would, you know, perhaps thank me for just really, I mean, just really living, you know, and I feel like, you know, doing whatever, just try, you know, don't be afraid, don't anticipate too much, don't be, you know, this anticipation, what if it fails, what if it's this, what if it's that, and also not waste too much time with social media, you know. I think my 9-year-old would be like, live life, the real one, you know what I mean?
Thank you for going outside the parameters of technology. I mean, we depend on it, but thank you for living outside it.
No, I'm not saying I'll still be doing but it's just like, don't overdo it, right? Do what is needed for, of course, for your business, for this and for professional life, but don't, you know,
don't be immersed in the metaverse that is coming up.
And don't miss in the opportunity of just looking around, you know, your surroundings, be connected to the nature, be connected to your well-being, to your health, to your family and everything. Because of that, you know, don't, you know, it's a very expensive trade-off. And I think that's maybe two things that she will
thank you for. Well, that's amazing. So, okay, our last question. You're standing on a stage, and I know you have, standing on a stage talking to tens of thousands of women, and the speech is about being empowered to grow. What would be that last message you leave them with?
You caught me off guard. But I'm on stage, I'm trying to imagine myself, but trying to put myself there. I'm on stage speaking to thousands of women. That would be scary.
But more confidence, you can do it.
What advice? One thing that I think that that I would advise, particularly young women, is this these fears that we often have, you know, these fears of inadequacy. And I think a lot about Black women, just because it's my reality, and because a lot of Black women reach out to me, right? And to become a mentor, to just, follow their trajectory, hear them out, give feedback about their ideas and things like that. And one thing that they always ask me is, when we see from your career that there were a few shifts that you done in your career. You were in IT and you left everything to become a student. Like you were a manager and you left everything to become a student. Then you were in IDB, Inter-American Development Bank, which is like everybody will cut a hand and
to go there.
be there, and you just left to open your company, and in the moment of those key decisions that can make or break, it could have been a total mistake, right? What made you feel confident enough, right? Or made you decide for going for it, right? And that's when I was like, okay, the conviction, of course, it's one thing that I cannot lend to you, right? I had the conviction that my place was not in an IT company, right? I knew and I believed that conviction. I listened to that conviction, like that thing telling me, waking me up every night, and just like,
your intuition, your guts.
Yeah, exactly. I listened to it, right? And I didn't let the money speak louder, because I was making money, and I had to take care of some things as well with that money, right? But my emphasis was the intuition, right? And the same thing with the second. So every moment of decision making, I didn't let somebody else influence. I didn't even want to listen what people thought about that decision, which can be not so wise, because sometimes you have to reach out to people who are more experienced than you to seek for counsel and advice and everything. But my advice to these women who are listening to me is listen to your gut, listen to your intuition, and you can feel fear, but don't let it paralyze you.
Exactly.
Right. And if you are really not unsure and feel paralyzed, seek counsel, seek advice. That's important.
Yes.
But everybody have that intuition, and you know it in your and don't overthink too much the negatives. What will happen if it didn't work out? Give more weight to the positives, and so I think, it's a long, let's say, story to say that my advice, and why did I mention Black women is because in the society where I come from, we carry the weight of many family members, right?
Yes.
We, particularly us who were able to acquire higher education, we are earning well, we made it, right? We made it. A lot of people look up to us for that support, and then something that weighs heavily on our decisions. But we need to, if we want to break through a ceiling and find the next level, so that you can empower to grow and help even more those around you, you need to listen to your gut and to your intuition, and just go for it.
I love that. And the story is very relatable. And I know we spoke about this, and it's about these times where you're faced. You're not necessarily settling, but you're just kind of making home in this place where there's a level up or a level different that you want to transition to.
Let me play safe.
Exactly.
And, it's like I make enough to take care of this situation, everything, but in your gut, it's like, this is not it.
This is not it.
It's not yet. So
I love that. Okay, so where can our finders and viewers find you in virtual space and connect with you in virtual space?
Oh, great. So now I'm the CEO and founder of DIMA Consult, Development Impact Managers and Advisors. So you can find DIMA at www.dima consult.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Luana Ozemela, on Instagram, Lulu Ozems, on Facebook, Luana Garcia Ozemela. So just reach out and I today my focus and with DIMA particularly is three pillars. Right. So the first one is to promote a more inclusive and diverse financial market. So we do a lot of advocacy. We sit on boards, we sit in committees that relate with regulators, with big private companies, etc., to try to influence the financial system. And we also set up fund structures and advise asset managers on setting up fund structures that apply gender lens and diversity lens, right? So that their money can go towards closing gender gaps and closing race and ethnic gaps, right? And the third thing, we also do a lot of training for large corporations that want to do a more effective diversity and inclusion policy and programs, etc. No, we help them leverage difference, not just manage diversity. It's like, how do they really grow their own business and their bottom line by leveraging diversity, no, and leveraging the differences that we see in the labor force. So yeah, today these are the areas, and if anyone is interested in any of those areas or collaborating or receiving even mentoring access, just reach out to me.
Sounds good. Well, I think you said it best, that it's not just about recognizing what is there, recognizing the gaps and trying to fill it in, but it's actually trying to make it cohesive and more of synergy, and capitalizing on it to realize that this is actually a benefit rather than a drawback or a challenge or a setback or something. And I'm going to sum up by saying thank you. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your energy. And I loved our conversation. And for all of you, I think it's follow your gut. Understand that, again, I think we've been saying this over and over again in so many different ways. There is a tax, there is a price you will pay to have your own choices independently of how you have been conditioned, where you have been raised. We all know that, yes, there could be a toll there could be a weight that could be weighing you down for some time, but there will be a window of opportunity where you have the chance to drop your anchors and start sailing forward to another harbor, to another city, to another chapter of your life, and just make sure you are ready emotionally and mentally to be able to take that journey. So as always, I wish you love, abundance, and prosperity, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to the Empowered to Grow podcast. For further engagement with a tribe of empowered women, join my Facebook group, Empowered to Grow, or visit my website, www.hananelbasha.com. I'll catch you on the next episode. And until then, know that empowered you empowers others. Love, abundance, and prosperity to you all.